I'm Lottie Smith and I'm here with Little Inventors to teach you some tips and tricks on adding movement to your models. You can make movement in lots of different ways, so let's look at a few now. So to begin with, how we could make some movement by using a tube. So this one's a poster tube, but you could also use a kitchen roll as well. I'm going to do it around this big one so that you can see what I'm doing a little bit better. So one way of creating some movement would be you get your tube and you get yourself a long piece of cardboard. Now, you want to make sure that you're using the corrugation like we spoke about in the last video, and that the line, so that when I say corrugation, I mean the lines are going across like this. And that's so that when you put your tube down, you can wrap the cardboard around. So what you want to do is wrap the cardboard around quite tight, like that. And you can use some glue, but it might be a little bit better to use some tape. So I've got some wide tape here. So if you just cut yourself off a piece of tape, and I've got some that's the same colour as cardboard, but don't worry if you don't, because whatever colour the tape is, or if it's see-through, you can make that a feature of your design. So you want to stick it on nice and strong on that. Now it's on tight enough so it doesn't fall off, but it's still loose so it can turn round. Now, with this tube, you can make all sorts of things with a tube, but one of the things you can do with the tube is you could make yourself some kind of controller for your wrist, and then you could turn it round. So you could draw buttons on here, or you could stick on different lids. So one of the things you could do is the toilet roll tube that we've had earlier with the flanges on, you can use these to stick them on to here. So I'll take it off, and I can do it really quickly. It rolls about a bit, so you might want to get a bit of help holding it steady while you do this. You don't have to stick it on with sticky tape, you can stick it on with glue, and it might actually be a little bit stronger if you use glue. So if you've got these flaps here that are overlapping, make sure that you're not sticking these cardboard bits down onto the actual solid tube, because if you hold that down onto the tube, you're not going to be able to spin it round, but if you hold it loose, it'll spin round. So now you've got something like that on, you can turn it round like this. So you can keep adding objects, and it could be lots of things. If you wanted to, you could add 4 more, and then it would be on the end, and it would be a bit like a wind turbine. All sorts of things that you could use that technique for. So one of the other things you could add onto it is, before, when I showed you about cutting a circle out, I use this tube. So we've got the piece that we cut out before with this, and it'll fit over the tube because that's the tube that you used, and then that'll spin round. So at the moment that's a little bit of a funny shape, but you could cut it down. So I would suggest that you use a pencil and you draw this first. So I'm just guessing the shape, so it's not going to be very even. Oop. So if you're cutting out like this, make sure you leave a good enough gap here, because if you cut this too thin, it will become a little bit weak and it might break. So you can put that back on, and you can see it's a little bit like a wind turbine, but it's not perfect. So it's like that. So there's all sorts of things you can do with turning things around using a tube. And remember, you can use a kitchen roll if you don't have a solid tube at home. So another way of adding a rotational movement to one of your designs is by adding a dial. So I'll show you what I mean. So on this I've made a little dial with a milk bottle top, and it turns around like this so you can set it at different settings. So that you can see on the inside, you can open it up, and you can see here it's got this bit here, which is what is rotating it. So I'll take it out so you can get a better look. So this is what it looks like when it's not in your controller. So to make one of these, what you want is a strip of cardboard, and again you want the corrugation or the lines to go across it like this. So you've got that, start at one end, and you just want to roll it up. And roll it up as tight as you can. It's better if it's tight, but don't worry if it's not too tight. So you've got it all rolled up like that, and you can see that it's tight, it's got no hole in the middle. So we get some tape. And again, you can do this with glue, but in case you don't have any strong glue at home, or you don't have time to wait for it to dry, you can put a piece of tape on, and go around like this, and you've got like that. So once you've got that, and you've got your box, you've got the size of it. So if you hold it onto the box and draw around it, all the way around it, and then you can punch through and cut out the hole like we showed earlier with punching out a hole. With smaller holes, it's quite often quite hard to cut out with scissors. So if you find that it's too small to cut out with scissors, what you do is you push in, you put your pencil in, and then you just keep pushing down with your finger like that, and you can just kind of make the hole a little bit wider. When it's a tiny hole, that's normally a little bit easier than trying to get scissors into it. Once you've got your hole like that and it fits inside, so this one is a little bit bigger, you can see it pushes in, and you want it to be quite tight, and then it can turn around. So on the end here, I've used a milk bottle top and I've glued it on. Now you can use all sorts of stuff, so any lids that you can find. If you don't have any lids at home, you can cut out a circle out of cardboard. So you put a little bob of glue in the bottom, stick that on. If it's a little bit wobbly, you can use the same technique as this. So you obviously can't cut flanges into the tube, into the roll itself, but you can create tabs of your own. So if you get a little strip of cardboard like that and you bend it, you get a little L shape. So if this is a little bit wobbly and it's not sticking very well, what you can do is you stick one side of your L shape onto here, onto the tube, and the other side of your L shape onto there. So you do it like this. Now you just keep going around and you do one on each side, and that'll hold. It won't hold quite as good as glue, but if you don't have any glue, that's a good solution. Last up, we can show you a way of making wheels and axles to create movement. So what you need for this is to cut out 2 circles, which you can do using the previous technique, and you'll need some kind of axle. So I've got a bit of a skewer, a barbecue skewer, but you can use a cocktail stick, and if you don't have either of those at home, you can use a pencil. For this, I'm going to use a tube. The barbecue stick has got a pointy end, so I'm going to use this to push through and create a hole in my tube. Now it's a bit tricky, but you want to go out the other side. Now you want it to be quite even coming out the other side, so rather than it being down here, what you want is you want it to be as opposite as you can make it on the other side. So you push it through like that. I'll show you how you can do it with the pencil as well. So you're doing exactly the same thing, you're just using the pencil to push through. Remember, if you're pushing through and you've got your fingers on the back through here, be careful that you're not pushing the pencil into your hand. So you push through, same thing, try and keep it even, and push it out the other side. Right, so you've got them going through like that. I'm going to take this one out so that I don't keep getting my hand on it. So you want to get both your circles, and you'll have a little hole in the middle of your circle from when you drew it with the compass. So you can just go back through that circle in the middle, and you put one on one side and the other one on the other side. And then you've got yourself a couple of wheels. Now your wheels might be a little bit wobbly like mine are. And if you want to keep them in at the side like this, so that they stay on either side, you can actually just get yourself a little piece of scrap cardboard and cut yourself off a little piece. And you can wrap that around there like that. Wrap around like that. Use a bit of tape to secure it. Oh, and that's not tight enough, so if you wrap it all the way around. That way you've got a little blocker, and this just stops the wheel coming off. So if you do the same at the other side, what it'll do is it'll hold the wheels together, which will stop them wobbling quite so much. And if you're doing it with a pencil, you just do exactly the same thing, but you just put the circles on the ends of the pencil. So on this example, I'm making wheels, but you can use this idea of a cocktail stick or a pencil and this rotation to make lots of different things. So if we go back to the little dial that we were making earlier, on the same controller I also made this little dial here that spins round. And so if I open the box up, and take it out. You can see it's just a stick with a piece of rolled up cardboard around it. So just like when I made the dial, when I rolled up the piece of cardboard, instead of rolling up the piece of cardboard before you start rolling it up, you just leave a little cocktail stick or a piece of wood or a short pencil in the middle of it, and you roll the cardboard all the way around that. Instead of putting it through a tube, I've put the holes through a box, and I've just cut a little hole out the front. So I put shapes on mine, but you could put all sorts of things on. It could be controls for anything, so it could be numbers, or it could be for different functions of your invention. And you can see it just spins around like that. Hopefully these techniques have given you lots of ideas of where to get started, so have a go and get inventive.